The biggest challenges right now include, I think our basic infrastructure is a lot weaker than it needs to be. If you look at roads, you look at the expansion of broadband networks, we've fallen from being at the top of the world to being like 24th now. I think that's a big issue. I think education is hugely important. At the university level, we still have the best universities in the world, and that's a big asset, and we could do more to leverage it. But I think at the K-12 level, we've got enormous challenges there. But the biggest thing I would say, actually, and this sounds funny, we don't promote ourselves very well. We have assumed for years that everybody wanted to invest in the United States, that companies were going to expand here, that we were the place to be. We're not. We're 300 million people in a world of 7 billion people. And a lot of these economies are rising. They're competing aggressively for economic advantage. They're selling themselves to the world. We don't do that very well. I mean, you take the effort to attract foreign investment. OECD looked at this a couple of years ago, said the U.S. was at the bottom of the advanced countries in terms of the effectiveness of its investment promotion efforts. So I think we've really got to, as a country, get out there and sell ourselves much more aggressively than we do. I think Georgia has done reasonably well. I think, Georgia's a fairly low tax place for companies to invest. I think, the wage levels are competitive. It's a nice place to live. I think this is a big advantage a lot of people underestimate. You have a place where houses are affordable, where the climate is good. So I think there are a bunch of advantages that Georgia has. I think there are real infrastructure challenges, particularly in Atlanta, with traffic issues. The city has grown so rapidly, and there are regional challenges. You see this in other states as well, but you've got a strong metropolitan area in Atlanta, but regions where there used to be economies, a stronger economy associated with agriculture, with the textile and apparel industries that have really fallen on hard times and haven't recovered. So there are real issues of regional disparity here that need to be tackled. Nothing is being done to address the immigration problem, which is one of the reasons you're seeing a lot of stuff at the state level. But yeah, the entrepreneur visa, I think, is a no-brainer, and I think would easily win support from both Republicans and Democrats. Currently, if you're a smart kid who comes in from India and China, goes to university in the United States, and a lot of them are doing it, really the only way you can stay here is either you marry an American or you get a job with a big company of some sort or another. But this is an entrepreneurial generation, and immigrants generally are an entrepreneurial bunch. A lot of these kids would like to stay and try to start businesses. There's no ability for them to do that. So an entrepreneur's visa, I think, would be a big advantage for the United States. A lot of other countries have done it. We have not got in the game yet. I mean, I think, President Obama came into office saying that it was going to be one of the issues he dealt with in the first year, and then I think the combination of the enormous economic crisis and the priority that was given to healthcare just pushed it off the agenda. There's not support, particularly among Republicans in Congress, for a broad immigration reform that would include any kind of legalization program for illegal immigrants. So there's just been a stalemate in Washington. The unfortunate result of that is at the state level, a lot of states are doing their own thing. And I think, you've seen in Georgia, there have been real problems. I think Georgia's, passed one of the harsher laws to try to deal with illegal immigrants, and particularly in the agriculture sector. You've seen real impacts of that, people leaving the state and farmers having trouble getting the seasonal labor they need. This needs to be dealt with in a rational way, and unfortunately continues to be a very emotional and divisive issue in a lot of parts of the country, including here. Well, I think, open borders is sort of a large phrase. I think in trade terms, I think we need to continue to expand our trade links, because what you're seeing is a lot of the big developing countries, the Brazils, the Indias, the Chinas, move from being poor countries to being middle-class countries. And as they become middle class, they're going to want to buy the stuff that we make in the United States, not just goods, but services. A lot of our business advisory services. We have the best construction firms in the world. We've got the best architectural firms in the world. It's huge demand for these kind of things in these countries. So I think the United States needs to do more. Latin America is a great opportunity that's really fallen off the table in the last 10 years. South Korea is a big trading partner. The other two, Colombia, Panama, are fairly small. I think they're going to have a lot of impact. But there's a lot more that the United States could and should be doing on this front. It's a problem at two levels. It's a problem because there are fewer native-born kids who are continuing in STEM education. And I think it's in part because there are other careers that are more attractive. A lot of them, go into medicine or go into finance. I think that's a problem. I think we've got to find ways to make STEM careers more attractive for Americans. But a lot of the skills issues, interestingly, aren't, we're not talking about the need for master's or PhD engineers and scientists. A lot of this is skilled employees for manufacturing and certain service businesses. A lot of this can be done at the community college level. And I think we have not done enough to try to match up our community college and university curriculum to the demands of the economy. You look at the Germans, for instance, they do this much better than we do. So I think we've got a lot to learn there. Well, I think the biggest problem in education is an inequality problem. If you look at the top 25, 30% of our public schools, so we're not even talking private schools, the top 25, 30% of our public schools, students who are coming out of those are as good as any in the world. Very strong, well-educated. You look at the bottom quarter of our schools, and they're way down the ranks. And so that's why when you look at test results, for instance, the U.S. tends to fall somewhere in the middle of the richer countries. It's that balance between very good schools and very weak schools. So I really think a lot of the focus has got to be on schools in the poorer neighborhoods. And that's why some of the innovations with respect to charter schools and other things I think can be really positive. I think getting parents involved, offering choice at that level can make a big difference. But there's no magic bullet when it comes to education. This is a long process of strengthening teacher training, making sure the resources are available, offering choice. All of these, I think, are part of the reforms that we need.